Welcome, welcome, welcome to Winning Hand, the podcast about Marvel Champions, one card at a time. My name is Boomguy. Thank you so much for being here, for watching, for listening, and for joining us on the first episode of 2026. I'm happy to lead you through yet another year of Marvel Champions. With me today, I have a special new first-time guest, Mr. AbisMol. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Glad to be here.
We're happy to have you. I also have the longtime co-host, the Shadowfax to my Gandalf, LazyTitan.
I'll take that. It's me. I'm Shadowfax, I guess.
I mean, who doesn't want to be Shadowfax?
Yeah,
I mean, Gandalf is, I prefer, but I'll take Shadowfax for sure.
Gandalf is objectively cooler, but nobody's cooler than Gandalf unless it's Aragorn. So there we are.
It is the answer.
Okay. We got a couple new podcast reviews that I'm going to read from Apple Podcasts. So if you want yours read on the air, you have to leave it. We're going to meet our first-time guest a little bit deeper, ask some questions that we always ask our first-time guests before we get into what we've been playing recently, and then the card of the day, which is Ready for a Fight. I think it's a new classic, spoiler alert. We'll see how it goes. And then we have some decks at the end that we'll talk through. AbisMol brought a deck to share, and so did I. So, before any of that happens, let me just remind everybody one more time. It only takes 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review and a few choice words for your favorite podcasts. So please do that on whatever platform you listen on. It really does help a lot. If you've already done that, if you want to do more, tell somebody who may not have heard about our show, tell them that we exist, tell them to listen, because we're the People's Podcast. We represent all people, and we want everyone to listen. All right, with that all behind us, let's jump into meeting our guests. So, Mr. Mol, AbisMol, why don't you tell us who you are, where people can find you, and what you do on the internet?
All right, so my channel is MC Deck Discussions, and my gamer name is AbisMol. And the main thing that I show on my channel is on YouTube only, and it's all about discussing decks. That's why I created the channel, because that's what I kind of wanted to see. And so I basically put together a deck, or when other people volunteer their decks, then I'll do their deck instead. And I'll go ahead and do some playthroughs of it with usually four different villains or leaders now, and then play through them in standard and expert, and then modify the deck as I go if it's one of my decks, and so that it can be more effective as I go, kind of just figuring out, what's working, what's not. And then afterwards, put out the video on it and describe, how all that, the deck and how it all worked and what it's about. And then I started throwing in some demo gameplay videos with that recently too. So what I'll do in a demo gameplay is I don't do a whole playthrough, is I'll just put in like the first round of the gameplay and then pause the video, come back again later after the deck's been built out, and then finish the game and really kind of demonstrating what the deck can do. And then I actually just finished my 5th aspect with Iceman. I put a video out today on that. And once I finish those, I'll do a ranking video of the 5 aspects. What are my favorites in the 5 aspects, ranking them from my least favorite to most favorite, and then do some other things here and there but that's my main focus.
Yeah, that's I have to say, I think your channel, and I don't say this about everybody, so I really mean it, I think your channel is criminally underrated in our community. I think you really do a great job diving deep into decks and talking about cards and card choices and decks and how they play, and their detailed write-ups on Marvel Champions CDB, incredible. Your videos are great and very in-depth and clear. You should have way more subscribers and people watching you than I think you do. So please, if you're watching this, if you like The Winning Hand, I'm sure you will like MC Deck Discussions. Please go subscribe and like and follow along, because it's really, really great content. I'm a big fan.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Before we go on, I do have to ask, you mentioned you just did Iceman. We just did an Iceman deep dive. Can you give us just like the cliff notes? I don't want to give anything away from your videos, but how'd you like Iceman overall?
So I actually really like Iceman a lot. I'm not sure where like he falls within all of them. Like, let's face it, if anybody's seen some of my videos, like I like almost every hero a lot.
You do.
But Iceman just does some things that nobody else can do, and I just love that ability. Today was protection was what I covered, and I tend not to think that defending is the greatest thing to do with Iceman, but that was actually the most fun. It was actually a 2-deck comparison video, so I did 2 different strategies and then shared both decks and how they compared. And I was surprised at how much, because the thing about Iceman is when you defend with him, that's also you put the frostbite on the enemy and then it gets lost right away. And so it tends to feel like you're getting a little bit punished for using it that way. But it was so much fun. And I think when combined with, what is that, Indomitable, like that combination is just, it's so good with him. And then, and you might be able to guess one of the other cards in that protection deck based on our topic for today.
Possible.
But adding that into there too makes them so effective, because being able to go down to Alter Ego and keep putting those frozen solid cards back into your deck is, and neutralize the villain, be able to get some of that card draw from using cryokinetic perception. It's a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, cryokinetic perception is one of my favorite hero cards, just full stop, in the whole game. I love that card. It's really, really fun. I've also had a great time with Iceman using the Come Get Me Bub into Anticipation combo, so you can search for a minion, pull it out, give yourself a tough, and then ready with Anticipation because you engage a minion. He's a really great hero. Glad you're enjoying Iceman. If you haven't watched all that stuff, I have not watched it all yet. It just came out. Go check it out on MC Deck Discussions. Now let's meet you and get to know you a little bit better before we dive into everything else. So let's start with heroes. What is your favorite hero in Marvel Champions to play?
So unlike the vast majority of people, I have a tendency not to have favorites of anything. So other than when I go to a restaurant, I have a favorite food at that restaurant. But outside of that, I tend not to be like a favorites person. I don't have a favorite like sports team and whatever sports and that I watch, and none of that. What matters to me more is that I'm enjoying all the heroes that I play. So, and for me, for the most part, that's true of Marvel Champions. And it's what makes Marvel Champions my favorite game, is the fact that I can have that variety. My ADHD brain has to have that variety, but I don't want to be learning like a new game constantly, like reading a 30 or 35 page book, because I also have narcolepsy. And I can't read the rules books, unless I'm standing up and I have to walk around. Because if I fall asleep within a minute, like if I sit down and try to read it. So
wowza.
So that's not fun. So Marvel Champions allows me to have the variety as if I'm playing new games all the time, because of the new heroes coming out, the new villains coming out, and gives me that variety I need. And that's actually what I love. So I don't have a favorite hero. I just love it that I can do so many different things with so many different heroes and always have the game new for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Great answer.
I'm assuming you're going to say the thing about scenarios then, the same thing. I usually ask people then, what's your favorite scenario? Are you going to give me the same answer? No favorites?
So, while I don't have favorites, I do definitely have preferreds.
Okay, go on.
And that goes along with, like, I don't like those super complicated villains that like they do 50 bazillion things and you just can't remember all of them. So I do like them to be a little bit simpler. So I do actually really like Claw a lot. And I really like, although I actually have a house rule with Expert Claw, because I want it to be a certain level of difficulty every time. So if you have to discard cards until you get a minion and then they come into play. When I play Expert, it has to be one of those harder minions.
The Masters of Evil?
Yeah, Masters of Evil. So if I get one of the other ones, what I do is I just go through the deck till I find the first Masters of Evil minion. I put them in play and I just shuffle the other one back into the deck.
Okay.
So it has this certain level of difficulty. It actually means that I lose to, because my other favorite is Magneto. I lose to Claw in Expert more often than I lose to Magneto in Expert.
Wow.
That's for sure. And that's because if you start off with a Masters of Evil minion, and there are some pretty tough ones in there, and you have 2 side schemes to take care of at the same time, it's a pretty good challenge. So, but the other reason I lose is because that tends to be where I modify my decks the most. Is after I lose to Claw, it's like, okay, what do I need to modify in my decks to get past Claw? And then I tend to then defeat all the rest of the villains the first time through, including Magneto. So Magneto is my other favorite, although I have to admit, like the Civil War hero leaders, I actually really like all of them. I like the way that, when you defeat that first part, you get into one and you can't do any damage right away. In that next round, in that same round, and then, but they all, have a little different thing to them, but they're still all pretty simple. So it's, and still plenty challenging. Like it's not a cakewalk all the time either. Although I have to tell you, Iceman that we were just talking about, like he does really well against those.
Iceman is so good.
Yeah.
What's your favorite aspect?
So when I first started the game, it was for sure justice. So, it took me, like when I first started playing, you have the core box, and I was like, man, this is the only aspect that I feel like I can consistently win with as a person who's, plays solo all the time. And so justice was my favorite for a long time. And the way I learned the game is I focused on one aspect at a time. So once I figured out justice was my favorite in the beginning, I just focused on, I would play every hero. So I mentioned before, I got to have that variety, right? So instead of doing what a lot of people do, which is focus on one hero and play them in all kinds of different ways, I focused on one aspect. So I just played justice only, and I would play them against the different villains, and then every hero in justice. And so, and then when I started playing expert and we started getting more cards and all of that, I started, really enjoying leadership, because I was like, man, this card draw is awesome. So then I really got into leadership. But I have to say, with the addition of the most recent cards in the last half year to year, I guess maybe it might be the last year now, I actually like all of the aspects pretty equally, except for pool, just because it doesn't expand.
Yeah.
I still enjoy pool because I like having, hey, that's just one more piece of variety I have to, so I'll still play pool I play every villain, every hero in every aspect. So I still play pool and I enjoy it, but it's just not as fun because you don't have the big variety of choices that you can do with it, other than like, new basic cards coming out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah. So that was kind of evolved for me. So but man, aggression and protection have also become a ton of fun now, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think all 4 aspects are enjoyable for me these days. For me, the biggest riser the last year was aggression. I used to be pretty down on aggression, but aggression has really risen up for me. I think it's a really strong and, most importantly, fun aspect now. I like your idea a lot of starting with one aspect. One aspect at a time sounds like something else I know. I always knew you were a man of the people. And you're representing,
because it's vaguely familiar.
Yeah, it sounds like something else I've heard maybe 86 times. Okay, so that was good. Thanks for introducing us to you and your experience with the game. Last question before I forget. When did you get into the game? At what point in the game's life cycle did you join?
So the game, I actually looked it up recently. The game came out a little before 2020. And I actually bought it probably January or February of 2020. So real soon after it came out. And then when I first started playing, I actually bought it for the purpose of playing with my brother. And so we got a chance to play together for about 3 times. And then, with the life situation, he couldn't really visit to play anymore. And I was trying out a bunch of different games, trying to figure out what I liked. And I eventually figured out, you know what, if I'm going to play Marvel Champions, I think I'm going to have to try playing solo. And then that's what really got me into the game, actually, was playing it a lot.
All right, so let's jump into the 2 recent Apple Podcast reviews that I wanted to share today. So if you want yours read on the podcast, you just got to leave a review, and I'll check and I'll read them.
Can't read if it isn't there.
Thank you, LazyTitan. That's a great point, and I want to just underscore that. You can't read what's not there, so please leave them, and I'll read them. All right, here's the first one is titled A Fun Listen and Great Resource by P. Hork 37? Fork 37? I'm not sure.
Probably Fork.
It says, a fun listen for new and established Marvel Champions players alike. Each episode leaves me excited to try out new decks and revisit old heroes and cards. I really appreciate their multifaceted approach to evaluating cards beyond just a good, bad paradigm, because I agree the theming and feel of the cards can be just as important in games like this. Appreciate all the hard work and support of the Champions community. Thank you, Fork, for leaving 5 stars and an excellent review. I agree with everything you said. It's a great point. Okay, next one is titled Finally Got Around to This, 5 stars. Says it's by JT underscore 1892. JT. Takes 30 seconds. Love the show. If you enjoy MC and have an open mind, this show will be great for how you approach and look at cards. Well said, JT. It only takes 30 seconds. Great job. I couldn't have said it better myself.
That is amazing that it only takes 30 seconds.
It's
it only
crazy.
takes 30
Sometimes
seconds.
less.
You just got to click that 5th star. Fills the other 4 in for you. Just click that 5th
You only
one.
gotta click the 1 star.
Leave a few words.
It's just as fast as leaving any other review.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't
you
take
might
longer
as well.
for adding more stars. You might as well hit 5.
So if you're trying to up your stars per second ratio, 5 stars really is the most efficient way to do that.
I mean, if you're a gamer and you're all about
if you're a gamer,
greed,
if you love efficiency,
efficiency
is what gaming's all about. So if
Yeah.
I don't know, it feels like if you want to up your stars per second, I don't know.
your
I've just
effective
been-
stars per resource or whatever.
I've been upgrading my effective stars recently. I've been working on that, and I feel like that's
it shows
neglected for a lot of people.
great.
But
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, let's talk about what we've been playing recently. And we have a guest. So, Abis, why don't you go first and tell us what you've been playing recently?
All right. So there are a few things, actually. Well, first of all, I have been playing Iceman recently, for sure. And then the 2 most recent heroes. So what is that? Hulkling and Tigra. And those 2 are a ton of fun. And especially, like, it actually surprised me. Like, I really like Hulkling a lot, but Tigra is amazing to play and just does things so differently than everybody else. I enjoy it a lot. That's been, definitely my favorite hero this year. As far as I said, I don't have favorites, and then now I'm saying I have a favorite. But my favorite, the one that I'm finding the most fun for this year, has been Tigra. It's been, just really cool to see, and it's interesting to see which villains that Tigra does well against, and which ones are actually pretty challenging based on the minion sets that are in there. They can make a big difference. And then I also have been playing a game called Demio, and I played that with my brother. My brother and I play computer games that are, you could say, board game adjacent on Saturday nights normally. And there's a new one that they had come out. It was called Demio crossed with Dungeons and Dragons. And it is such a cool, like, Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're into dungeon crawlers at all, I'd recommend giving it a try, because it's also very simple. If you want a complicated one, maybe not, but it's really simple for older people like myself that don't want those complicated games where you have to spend forever. You have to play them like hour upon hour before you really know how to play the game, and it doesn't take that with this.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
LazyTitan, what have you been playing recently?
Well, I recently, I don't know if we've mentioned this on here, but you and I recently went through the Sinister Motives campaign.
We did.
We did Expert 2, Standard 3, and Heroic.
We did.
And it was an experience. We both decided, we said we want to try to make something as hard as we possibly can, while still being fun. So we didn't play like the Collector. We're not masochists. But we were like, let's try to play. I want to crank the difficulty up, because I had never really played Heroic. I just haven't done it, and I like to try it out. We were both pretty good on Heroic and Expert 2 for a while after that one. That one was, it was a
rough.
brutal one. But the fun thing that I thought about the campaign was the hardest scenario was not what most people would expect, Venom Goblin. It was by and large easily Mysterio. Mysterio was easily
Far
the hardest one.
Yeah.
Just because of the mass of encounter cards he gives out. Because Mysterio is designed to have his 2 sets and a certain number of encounter cards, you're drawing a lot of cards, but they're not that bad. But when they are standard 2 cards or expert 2 cards and standard 3 cards, they are actually pretty bad. And so then you start running into a lot of stuff that just gets really bad. We were playing with the campaign rules, so we had like the Osborne tech and stuff in there. But we were consistently pulling 15 to 20 encounter cards each every single turn. So we were going through 25 to 40 encounter cards easily every single round.
It was insane.
And even with the heroes we had, with all the setup we could get, which it wasn't much because it was just so much mass, you would go through 4 hands because he's discarding it constantly. You're getting deja vu 3 times a turn. Like, it just keeps happening. And then we would clear the main scheme. It was pretty bad. It was pretty rough. We killed all the main scheme, and we would clear the main scheme, kill the minions, and like deal 2 damage to Mysterio. And then next turn, we would almost thread out again. We'd be 2 away from losing. We'd have 4 side schemes, and each a minion. Our Nemesis minions just kept coming out because it's standard 3 and Mysterio. Yeah. So there's 5 or 7 cards in there that just keep pulling them out. Also, Expert 2 pulls it out so that you could just you were playing Maria Hill, so the controller just appeared
almost
every turn. He would just appear.
Yep.
It was an experience I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, but it was super fun. And Mysterio is still one of my favorite scenarios. I like him a lot.
Yeah,
but
same.
it was crazy. It was crazy to just sit there and be like, we just pulled 25 encounter cards. Like, I don't even know what's happening anymore.
Yeah. You were playing Ironheart Justice.
Playing Ironheart Justice, one of my faves.
Maria Leadership. So we were playing pretty strong decks. We tweaked them as we went. So it started, they were good decks, but like we really got them down to just the meat and potato, like just the best cards.
Just the best cards you could possibly run.
Yes.
And for Venom Goblin, he was not the hardest, but we did have to tech for him. Because we forgot that his Goblin Glider that lets him attack an extra time or activate an extra time requires you to just discard attack events that cost 3 or more.
Maria has no attack events.
Maria has 0 attack events, and Ironheart has 3, and they cost 2. So I have to draw 2 of my 3 attack events and discard 2 of them to discard this card that we just can't get rid of.
Yeah.
So I had to put in like Concussive Blow or something just to have a card.
Yeah, we did have to tech.
Of course, as soon as I added it in, we didn't draw it again. But the first game we played, we drew the glider, and we were like, "Oh, we can't remove this.
That's just going to stay there all game."
And that's with Venom Goblin. You can't just let the glider stay around. But yeah, it was a slog. Each one took us probably 3 to 5 games to get through. But it was fun. It was an interesting challenge. It was a way to play the game that we had not really tried before. We've done hard campaigns, but like, really, Heroic really added an extra layer that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, we think we played 14 or 15 games to get through the full campaign, and some of them were long, and there was a couple where it's just like, we're close, and then we lost.
Mysterio, we had that a couple times in a row.
Yeah. No, it was experience. I'd recommend it if you want to try it. I think Heroic is a fun thing to do once in a while. It really, I build a lot of decks that are kind of, I wouldn't say cute, but like they have little combos, and like I'm using cards that, aren't ideal. They're not perfect.
Inefficient.
I'm using Brains over Brawn or weird cards because I just like to play the weird stuff. And when I play really, really hard stuff, it forces you to say like, okay, I do have to just go back to tried and true strategies of Make the Call and Nick Fury, which I avoid generally playing in Standard and Expert because I just find it tedious to play the same stuff all the time. So, but you really forces you to kind of build differently. So it was a good time.
It was cool because, like you said, you're going back to those like classic strategies that I don't actually end up playing a lot. Like I know all about like the Justice, like all those great Justice cards, Make the Call, all these cards that people play all the time. I don't actually end up playing them all the time because I just see it so much and I understand that it's good. I've done it before. So it was interesting to like really be forced to do that. You couldn't do anything cute. And the biggest thing was you could really never set up, at least not me. You kind of have to because you're playing Murray Hill, but like I almost never got my like thrusters and my blasters out because I didn't have the time to set
No
those
time.
things up. Every single resource had to be spent on thwarting every single turn, and even then we still spread it out a couple times.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Well, if you listen to my last episode, which was the end of the year 2025 roundup, if you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen. We ran through all of our favorite things for the year. So now I don't feel like I'm spoiling to say what I've been playing recently is Nick Fury. I've been playing a ton of Nick Fury. He was my favorite hero of the year of 2025. So my number one. Nick Fury is just really, really fun. I really love the mechanics. I gushed about him last episode, so I won't go too far. But I've been playing him different aspects. I published a number of decks fairly recently with Nick Fury in different aspects. I published a Justice deck before MCDC, and then I published a Protection deck and a Leadership deck in December here, which I've really been enjoying. He's just really fun. I love the thematics of popping in and out of stealth. I love the different cards he has. I love the art he has. So good. He's easily going to land in my top 10 heroes, I think, long term. I think there's 2 heroes this last year that are going to be my top 10. Shuri is the other one. Very, very strong. But I've been playing a ton of Nick Fury, different player counts, and I'm not getting sick of it. So something about that form changing. Here we are again. That form card really, really doing it for me.
You do love a permanent form upgrade.
I do. Although I don't really love Shadowcat. I will say I'm not a huge Shadowcat fan. I think she's fine.
Yeah.
I think she's kind of
Well, you don't
mid.
get to choose when to flip Shadowcat as much. You don't get as much control over it.
Yeah. I think she's, I don't know, a little mid. I mean, Nick's the same thing. You can't entirely, you've got limited, but Nick is great. So I've been playing a lot of Nick Fury. Or most recently in Protection. That's the one I've been playing recently. Kind of a standard repurpose build, but he has a couple of his preparations in his kit are tech cards. So combining repurpose with practice plan allows you to repurpose some of his tech cards, and then as soon as they leave play, you can pitch practice plan to put them back in your hand and then play them again. And so it makes repurpose a little more consistent for him. It's just a way to kind of keep things going, and then popping practice plan, removes threat with secret agent. So there's a bunch of synergies he has. Anyway, it's not super creative, but it's on Marvel CDB if you want to look it up. I will forget to put a link down below almost certainly. So just Google it on Marvel CDB or whatever. All right, let's go on to the card of the day. I'm going to share the card of the day. AbisMol, since you are the guest, if you would not mind reading the card of the day, and then we will talk about what this card is. I'm very excited to talk about this. I think a lot of people will be excited to hear about it. So would you please read the card for us, and then we'll go from there.
Yes. All right. So it's a protection card, 1 cost upgrade, ready for a fight, and it is a preparation, and it has a requirement. Oh, and it also has a physical resource icon on it, and it has a requirement. You must pay a physical resource to play it, max 1 per player. And it has this interrupt: when an enemy would scheme, discard ready for a fight, and then there's the cost arrow, change to hero form, that enemy attacks you instead.
Yeah. This is, there's a lot to talk about with this card. So the first thing we always talk about, this came in the Silk Hero Pack. This is a fairly recent card. We don't usually talk about super new cards. I guess at this point it's almost a year old. Silk's not that new anymore, but this is a fairly recent card. It came in the Silk Pack. The first place we always start is with art. So I will say that this art is from a comic panel from Spider-Geddon Volume 1, number 5 from 2018. That's where this art comes from. LazyTitan, would you mind, just people who are listening, the real ones out there who listen to this, would you mind just describing what this art is so we can talk about it?
We're looking at a front and center is Ghost Spider, and then there's surrounded by a bunch of various spider. There's like a Tarzan looking spider guy. There's a dude with his hair out. There's an all black kind of like Venom looking one. One of them's got like a ripped suit. So clearly a multiverse Spider-Verse kind of event. And then they have like the kind of lines, kind of like Star Wars hyperspace, but it looks like they're moving somewhere. Looks like they're going to swinging into something. They're all in like movement action poses. I would say ready for a fight. And
You might say, yeah.
One could say. And the background's pretty plain, but get some variety in the spiders. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that kind of describes it. AbisMol, what do you think about this art?
I actually like it quite a bit. I mean, I like how action oriented it looks. I don't think we get that all the time in the art, and I just, they look like they're very much ready to battle something. They're either heading somewhere or something's head towards them, and they're going to meet them. And I just like all of them are in great action poses, and you can see that they're teaming up together. So I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's good. I don't know most of these spiders. Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider is right up front. In the back is Spider-Bite, who I think may have also come in this pack, coincidentally. Spider-Bite's the one in blue and white, kind of on the right side of the frame.
Yeah.
There's not a ton to say.
At least like a couple of them are in very good classic Spider-Man poses. Got the like legs up, arm down, pulling on the web. The one arm up, very classic Spider-Man, right under Gwen. It's just, it's good spider stuff.
So thematically, does the, card text and the title and, what it does and the art, does everything come together in a kind of cohesive thematic whole? Or does it feel a little disjointed? I'm going to let you start with this one, Abis. What do you think? Does this thematically come together well for you?
Yeah, to me it does. It feels fitting, and and I have a preference for ones where you have it looks like action that's occurring, and so that doesn't necessarily fit the theme all the time. But in this case, it definitely feels like it fits that theme, along with all the other pieces too, with where what the card does that they're about to thwart, but instead, no, you've got to face us. Us being these web warriors.
Yeah, I love little details here, like that it generates a physical resource, which things fighting and combat, fisticuffs. Also, you have to pay. Both things. It both generates and requires you to pay with a physical resource, which feels that kind of fighty, combat, punchy stuff. So I like that. I'm a little disappointed as always. There's no flavor text. There's not a ton of space here, but I do love flavor text quite a bit, so that to me is always an omission.
I think there's space for a Spidey quip at the bottom of this.
There's a quick quip could fit here. I'm not going to lie to you. We could get one, and I'm a little disappointed we didn't get it.
Honestly, be the flavor text. Just say like, quote, something witty. Spider-Man. I don't know.
It could just be like, hiya, or I don't know. It could be something like this, whatever it is. But some could fit there. I feel like it's inexcusable to not have any in this card. There's not that much text. But I do love the everything that comes together. The art kind of works. It does feel, especially Tarzan guy. He's really he's ready for it. He wants all the smoke. He's here for all of it. So I like it. It's good for me. Thematically, it works, with the exception of the flavor text. LT, what do you think? Anything else to add?
I think it does what you would want it to do. Feels like you're ready to swing. I think it feels good. I like it. The art thematically, the double requirement for the fist resource and generating, and then just what it does, I think all comes together pretty well to feel like feels like a superhero, like interrupting the villain.
Yeah, and I like that. It's only one per player, so if you put multiple copies of this in your deck, it will help pay for itself. That's just like kind of a clever little thing. That's
great.
Nice.
That when you draw two, you just get to play one for the cost of the other, and they have the resource. Always good to see that.
Yeah, and I think so in terms of the power of this card, I may have spoiled it early, but I think this is where we're going to kind of talk about the card the most. This card is really strong, right, AbisMol?
Yes, and I think in particular for solo players, like this was for sure it felt like a game changer for me as a solo player. That was always my concern every time I'm playing Protection, because I love going to Alter Ego, and always disappointing in Protection to hardly ever be able to do that previously, other than what you might be able to build into it. So I like being able to do that. But at the same time, I actually feel like it's fair, because you pay what could be a hefty price when it triggers, if you don't prepare ahead of time.
I also think it adds a lot for the multiplayer people because this card does not say when an enemy would scheme on you. So you can protect other people so if someone else flips down, just having this in your deck also lets you do that. It's very much a game changer, I think, in all player counts. This card has kind of changed protection permanently. Is this protection's hone technique?
I was going to ask something similar to that. I was going to ask if this is protection's skilled investigator, which I think is maybe a little closer for me.
Maybe
I don't think I
closer.
would call this hone technique. I think hone technique warped future designs of aggression events considerably. Like everything was balanced against hone technique because, not to go into it too deep, we did a whole episode on hone technique, so you can go back and listen. But generally, right, the way you balance card, you can make a very strong effect, and one of the counterbalances you have in that is to make it more expensive, so you just can't spam it over and over again. Unfortunately, what hone technique does is it takes the cost, which should be a limiting factor, and actually makes the whole card even better. So that's why I get a little crazy. I don't think that does it to this degree, in my opinion, but to me, this is a card that, like Skilled Investigator, if I'm running Justice, I'll probably just slap a copy in, even if I'm not planning on clearing a ton of side schemes, because it costs 0 and it draws me a card when a side scheme is cleared. I don't have to do it myself. This feels similar to me in protection. Like, if I'm playing protection, I'll probably just slap a copy of this in there, especially at low player counts. But I do really love what you said about it doesn't have to be the scheme on you. So you can stay in hero form and put this down. And if you're defending the table, someone else can flip down, and then you can discard this to pull an attack towards you that instead of scheming. So it does a lot of work beyond just letting you flip down in solo, but I think that's primarily where it's at.
Yep.
I actually really like that. So one of the things I love about this podcast actually is that I always get to hear that multiplayer perspective, and because I like knowing about it, even if I don't really have the opportunity to play multiplayer myself. And so I'm always curious on a card like this. I'm like, it's great for solo. Is it great for the others? So I appreciate you guys sharing that perspective. I was thinking, for me, the card that feels the most equivalent is actually the Justice card with the van, the Justice upgrade. It has
Under surveillance.
Yeah.
Under surveillance is a sleeper hit. That is a good pull. Yeah. I am never disappointed by under surveillance. I'm always saved us in our expert spider campaign many times.
And like Ready for a Fight, I think it just is. It's so much better at low player counts. Like in a solo game, under surveillance is insane. You might almost double
basically
the main
adding
scheme.
A second player to the main scheme without the cost of all those encounter cards and all that extra stuff. Like it's
I mean,
huge.
a 4-player, it's also solid. It's 3 or 4 players.
It's
very not good. A bad card. But I think it does kind of lose a little bit as it goes up. And I would say Ready for a Fight's about the same. LazyTitan, you asked me if this is Protection's Hone technique. Do you think this is Protection's Hone technique?
I think Skilled Investigator is maybe the better answer. I just think that Protection, I think it's hard to say that there isn't a pre and post Ready for a Fight protection aspect. That is more what I meant in like the monumental like scale. Because it's just this card is, you have to, it's one of those cards, there's very few of in Marvel Champions, which I enjoy, where you have to find a pretty good reason not to play this in your deck if you're trying to build your deck as good as possible.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few reasons not to play this card because, again, like we said, it pays for itself. So the resource requirement is not negated, but lessened by itself being able to be played for it. You can never feel bad about drawing 2 of them because you almost always use this card. It's the best. When we did our Expert Spiders campaign that we mentioned earlier, I was playing Ironheart. In that campaign, one of the rewards is you get a full set of an aspect card from different aspect. I picked Ready for a Fight because you can flip down as Ironheart to get that big hand size and those extra progress counters, and then just flip back up with your 3 defense and not suffer the consequences of being level 1. It helps every hero so much that once if you play with it a couple times in a row, it almost feels like how the game could have been designed to be. Like it almost feels like at some point in the design process, that was how the game was that you would flip down and be your alter ego, and then the villain would start doing a scheme and you would meet them to challenge. It just feels so like, because we've for the longtime listeners, I've talked about my hatred of flipping down and how I've disliked it, and I've kind of grown to understand it. I don't like flipping down because you're not get to do all your cool hero stuff. You don't get to punch people, but you get to. There's a lot more and more heroes are very much more designed to flip down. Like those early heroes like Captain America, like you had stuff that you could do, but especially with the mutant wave, like there's so much good stuff for flipping down now. All your X mentions and your Weapon X's, and you have your
Moira
like,
McTaggart,
Moira McTaggart, and I'll have all these things that you can do, and then all your alter ego abilities are all based on flipping. Like you have your Colossuses and your Roadies, and you have like so many things you can trigger off of flipping down, and so many rewards you get. Nick Fury can then switch to his form and do this whole thing. So there's so much more benefit to doing that now that it like changes the game. Well, like Colossus was the first person to have this kind of effect with armor up. And this card is almost even better in Colossus because it's just another copy. And so instead of having 2 armor ups, he has 5. And they also stick around. And so then you don't have to always, because when I've played Colossus in Protection, you often have to flip down and shuffle in an armor up just to hope you get it. But now you can flip down and shuffle in one of his attack cards or something else. And it's perfect for Colossus in any form, because if you're an alter ego, it flips you back up, and if you're in hero, it just pulls an attack from somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like, so you get to thwart. Like, it's just so good and so versatile. Like, I don't see how this card. It feels like it was designed. The game was designed to be with this card, and it's just so game warping and strong. It's so great.
It also lets you shift hero forms for those heroes who have multiple forms. So Ant-Man, Wasp, and Angel, it will also let you change those forms, right? So if you're in giant form, or let's say you're in, you don't want to end in giant form with Ant-Man, but you want to start there, so you're in tiny form, someone else gets scheme done, you can switch to giant form, pull the attack.
Deal 2 damage, heal, or deal a damage, heal 2.
Yeah.
And then flip back on your turn. Like, just another flip for Ant-Man.
I've used this as Angel. When you have his defense card in hand, you can rip this to push yourself to Archangel, and then play his defense card, which gives you retaliate for the like. There's all kinds of fun things you can do with it in that arena as well. I agree with you. I think this card is a little cracked. It is super, super powerful, and there's almost zero reason to run at least one of these in any protection deck you build. Like, unless you just don't want to play it. And that's fair too. Like, if you don't want to include this card, I often don't include cards that are just strictly better because I like creativity. AbisMol, what do you think? Is this as broken as LazyTitan I think it is?
I don't know. I think it's a card. I agree with everything you said about it being a card that's like, it doesn't make sense not to include it. And normally, to me, that does mean that it's almost maybe broken. But I think that the fact that the enemy, the villain, is going to, or it doesn't have to be the villain, actually, right? It could be one of the other. It could be a minion. I've made that choice before, where I go, you know what? I can afford to let that. I don't want to actually face the villain's big old attack, and I can afford their thwart right now. They're not going to thwart for much. I'm going to just flip it over on the minion instead. So I don't do that very often. But what I like is, it can be a hefty cost to flip over to the other side and get a big, massive attack on you. And, the fact that it stops the thwarting, which, thwarting is the most dangerous for sure that you have to worry about in solo player. And that's where I really agree with LazyTitan with regard to, it feels like it was missing once it allowed you to start going down to alter ego side. Because as a solo player, when I first started playing solo, I was mad because I wanted to do like I was doing with my brother, where I could flip to alter ego side each time. Even though in my mind, I actually thought it was lame that we had alter egos. I'm like, I want to be the hero. But later on, I figured out, oh, this is actually fun going to both sides. But when I played with my brother, we would alternate. One of us would go to alter ego each round. One of us would go to the hero side each round. We only played a few times, but I liked that. When I went to solo, I was like, I want to keep doing the same thing. But when I did that, I was like, oh man, I'm losing all the time. And so I was frustrated with that. I was like, these rules don't account for a solo player being able to play the way you can play in multiplayer. And so when LazyTitan mentioned this feels like it was a missing piece. So I actually, when I first started, hey, I actually put in a house rule. I was like, where I would say, hey, if you get forwarded out on your main scheme and you can recover from that, you can get that thwart off of there so it's underneath, then you don't actually lose. Right. So that's how I first started. Yeah, that's how I first started playing, because I wasn't having fun, because I'm like, I want to go to alter ego side and I can't. Later on, as I got better, I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself more and I'm going to go to expert, because I start off just in standard. You know how it is when you first start, you're not that good. So even in standard, you're having trouble. And the lower card count and all that, right, to choose from. But yeah, so it doesn't feel overpowered. It just feels like it does something that we should be allowed to do. And that it permits you to do what you should be allowed to do, and you should be allowed to go to alter ego. And if you're playing solo, you should be able to go to alter ego just about whenever you want. And I've always thought that wasn't the greatest design, that you couldn't when you're in playing multiplayer. You could legitimately have somebody do that pretty much every round.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'll answer your question with, LazyTitan. And I think you're right, AbisMol. I think, to me, in a sense, I'm going to answer your question by saying this is not Protection's hone technique. In a sense, I think it is. I think there is now going to be this demarcation point, the same way there is an aggression. There was a before hone technique time and there was an after hone technique time. I don't think this warps the entire protection aspect cards going forward, but I do think there's like before ready for a fight and there's after ready for a fight. Like, protection now exists in a new era where there is ready for a fight, which means you can essentially flip down all the time, take advantage of all your alter ego stuff, get a larger hand size, etc., recover and all that, and still be able to come back up. I think this is just, one last thing I want to say is you compared it to Armor Up, LazyTitan. I do think it's important for people to understand it is not the same as Armor Up. So Armor Up just says when this would activate, you flip. This one says specifically when the enemy would scheme, you discard it and then they attack you. Armor Up doesn't draw an attack to you. I've had that playing with some people at a table where they don't read carefully, or they just get confused or whatever, or they're maybe new to the game and they just think it's kind of the same thing, so it pulls an attack.
It is technically worse because you do have to get attacked.
And it's
I will say though, to your question to Abis, I don't think this card is broken in the same way that hone technique is arguably broken. But I do think this will warp card design. I think it will warp hero card designs. Because
say more about that.
Protection cards, like they all oftentimes are, a lot of them are the protection events and a lot of stuff. They have some alter ego stuff, but it's not huge on that. But heroes always have some kind of alter ego synergy, especially now. So if you're a Deadpool, you get your chimichanga truck, or just like Steve's apartment or whatever. This, I think, warps the game of that. Because if you have too good of alter ego, they were, especially with X-Force Wave, they were pushing the power of those, like Worthington Industries for Angel, super strong card. And they only got better. But now that you can just be in alter ego all the time with no consequences, basically, it's like you just have to change the way you do that, because otherwise these newer heroes will just get too broken in protection with ready for a fight. And also this card, if you can draw it consistently, just secretly says the Sorcerer Supreme on it, because it does also give you +1 hand size for most heroes that flip down and have a larger hand size. So you just get, like for Ironheart, I was level 1, you just get a 6 hand size because you do. And like there's nothing you can, I just have to play ready for a fight. And all I have to do is have 3 of it in a 40 card deck, and I'm going to draw it most turns. And if I don't, I'll just keep it out. I don't need to flip down every turn. I just can flip down whenever I want to and get all the extra bonuses.
Practice plan can really cheese this.
Because it is a preparation.
Keep recycling. You can just, instead of discarding, you put it back in your hand. Crazy.
You just put it back in your hand. You keep playing it. If you have a resource generator that does a fist resource like Captain America or a wild something, you can play it out consistently. It's just, it is. With all that said, though, I don't think it's broken because it doesn't do the same level of splashiness that Hone Technique does. When you play Hone Technique and you play Dive Bomb, especially the first few times we did that when that was new, that feels wrong. It doesn't feel like you should be able to do that. It's ridiculous when you can just pay 4 resources and the board is clear. There are no minions. The villain takes like 10, and it's just that's what happens. It felt like cheating. And so like it's not the only thing people do anymore, but it is still very good, and Hone Technique is still a super strong card, which makes cards scale incredibly. But when you play Ready for a Fight, it didn't have the same like impact. It wasn't like, oh, like Hone Technique, you can just do anything. It's all the kind of same stuff. It just sneakily lets you do what it feels like you always should have been able to do, which is just use your alter ego stuff more effectively. Just constantly be using your upgrades and your supports and your ability that you had from the start that you never really got to access as much.
Okay, but let me push back on that just a little bit, because primarily, especially AbisMol, you can back me up here as a primarily solo player. You can back me up and say that if you lose a game, most of the time you're going to lose with threat. Right? Scheme is going to lose you the game. So this takes the one loss condition that you have, which is threat, in an aspect that's already primarily responsible for limiting the other loss condition of the game, which is damage to your hero. So now you've taken the aspect that's limiting damage and eliminating it, and then you've also given it a huge tool to limit the other loss condition, which then means the game just becomes a lot easier. And is you just kind of really limiting how often you can lose in a game that already, if we're being terribly honest, isn't that difficult at its base standard difficulty, right? Like, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus or make you feel bad if you lose in standard. I lose in standard too, but you can make the game easier, right, is what I'm saying. And it's, at its base level, I don't think it's terribly difficult. So that is the sense where I feel like it's maybe a little cracked. It's not winning the game necessarily, but it's really limiting how much you can lose.
Maybe it's just like an insidious card that kind of, it's like, oh, it's fine, it's just Ready for a Fight, but it does alter the game. And we have both agreed that like this is a card that will shape the future of at least protection, if not the whole game. It also isn't another one of those cards. Hone Technique avoided this problem because it says aggression on it. But it's another one of those cards like Skilled Investigator that any multi-aspect hero can just also slap in there for free. So now, like if you're playing Adam Warlock or if you're playing Spider-Woman, that second aspect being protection looks a lot better. So now I think we'll be seeing a lot more Spider-Woman decks that are protection and blank instead of whatever else. We've talked about how Spider-Woman is mostly just a shell for dual aspect nonsense. But if you're trying to build a Spider-Woman deck to be a Spider-Woman deck, it's Ready for a Fight's probably going to be in there quite a lot.
Abis, are these takes outrageous? Are these takes incendiary? What do you think?
So I don't think they're outrageous. But I still think I have a different perspective, because to me, protection was just weak before this card came in. It was just weak. And the reason it's weak is because you don't have any great thwart cards and you don't have any great attack cards. And so, and you can do this puny bit of damage by doing retaliate, and you can do this puny bit of thwarting, or you can sacrifice like the whole game by thwarting and making the villain attack you or something sometimes, or whatever. Like, it just felt super weak to me. And this made it so that I feel like when I play protection now, I feel like I'm playing at a level of the other games. And now I feel like I'm okay when I play the attack cards. So when I play the attack cards and they only do 3 damage or 4 damage, or a couple of points of damage, and I'm okay with that, because now at least I'm not just sitting there playing a game that lasts for 5 years. So at least for solo, like, because if you don't play solo, protection is just one, piece of the puzzle of your whole team. And so that doesn't matter so much. But when you're playing solo, you feel like I'm being cheated here playing protection. At least it seemed that way to me. And when this card came in, I'm like, now I'm having fun. I like it that I'm having fun playing protection, and that I don't feel like justice and leadership were by far the best. And like you mentioned recently, and now aggression is up there now too. Like, I have just as much fun with aggression because of the new things it can do. So, and I think this is that puzzle that made it, this is the piece that made it so that protection is viable, at least in the solo level.
So you're kind of transitioning us into the last category, which is fun. So I'll just start with you and let you run with it. How fun is Ready for a Fight?
Yeah, so I think it's a ton of fun. And for precisely really those reasons that I was just saying, it made protection viable. So it's a fun card to use. It's like, because that's the other thing is like, I actually tend not to run that. What's that other card you guys mentioned that brings it back again? That's like a
Practice
zero
plan.
Practice plan.
Practice plan. I don't run practice plan, generally speaking. And I just have Ready for a Fight. It's not in my hand all the time. So I can only go down to Alter Ego's side here and there. It doesn't come back to my hand again afterwards. And it's like, I can't just go down anytime. I have to wait till I get this card. And then I have to make sure I planned it out so I can actually get that physical resource to put it out there. And which is why, it's important, like LazyTitan said, hey, it's great that it has a physical resource because you run 3 of these. You get 2 in your hand, you're not disappointed because, oh, now I can play it at least. So for me, it's a fun card because I feel like it enables protection in a way that it was needed to be enabled.
Okay, LazyTitan, as someone who doesn't play solo, counterpoint, how fun is it?
As much as I can sit here and talk about how, get on my high horse and talk about how this card might be bad for the health of the game and it might be pushing the level of protection too far. It might be making solo protection not even good in solo, potentially the best because it removes a lose condition. This card rules and it's awesome to play. This card is sick.
I love it.
And it is, like we said, it feels like the missing piece of what you want Marvel Champions to be. It feels like that moment of Superman ripping off the shirt and revealing the suit underneath. Like you just get to be the hero who gets to jump in at the nick of time. And also it lets you do all these cool combos that you can do with all the other stuff, like Iceman, where you can just flip down and keep your deck full of Iceman cards all the time to make your cryokinetic perception better. It works with, you also don't have to flip down. It just works as a way to protect other players and also thwart. This is a thwart card. It just stops the villain from scheming or minions. If you have whatever, sometimes there's those stupid minions that have like 3 scheme and 0 attack, and you just burn this to thwart for 3. Like it's so versatile. It's so good. I also love that we're playing. I feel like recent cards are playing a lot more with the resource requirements and the resource costs of cards and making them a little bit more restrictive, but also just more like thematic. So like Hone Technique was a super fun step for that for me because it was all, now I had to think about what mental resources I was putting in my decks. So I would put like the Fusillade and Yarn package because Fusillade's a mental resource. I'm putting Plan of Attack because it's a mental resource, but also I can use it for another reason. So you're doubling up on these cards. I think the resource part of this game is criminally underused, and I think it's super cool. And the 3 resource with the wild, it just making wilds feel more special than just like, oh, I can pay for the villain card sometimes is super cool.
Make wilds great again.
Yeah, Make Wild's great again. This card is awesome. It's super fun, and it also just happens to be super good. But it works at all levels of play. If you're playing just like a casual game where you're playing some precons and you like rip open the silk pack and you're like, oh, this is cool, and you get to like try this new thing and it's like pretty good. But also if you're like, I don't know, trying to beat like the Solo Champions League and you're like at the highest level trying to do whatever you can, like this is probably going to be in that deck if you're playing protection. And also, it's an LCG, so you can just not play it. That's the argument for every broken card. Just don't.
See, here I thought we were up on our high horses together, and we were talking about the health of the game, and I thought we were side by side, LazyTitan. You were right with me, talking about how this is breaking protection, but now I realize we're both off our high horses, because of course this card is super fun.
This card's awesome.
Like, this card's crazy. It's so fun. I do love your thing about the Superman moment, ripping off the shirt, right? I love anything that enables alter ego. I used to be anti-flipping, like you. I've grown to appreciate flipping down a lot more. They're giving us more tools in alter ego, which is really fun. It's half of the game. I feel like it's really underexplored, as you said. I wish there was more cards that like made you flip, and I realize why those are limited, right? Hulkling has 1. Miles has 1. They're very, very limited. They've been very stingy with that, and I understand. And we probably won't get aspect cards to let us do that as much, but I would love to see like an opposite. Can we get a preparation that lets you flip the other way? Is there a justice card that, when an enemy would attack you, flip down instead? Or I don't know.
That's something
like,
they're playing with.
something to let us flip back and forth more than just the once per turn. I think that's really cool. This card's super fun. I think this card works in, those kind of real spike, just efficiency decks. It also works in more fun kind of Johnny combo decks where you want to flip up and do something. I have, I think, a fun example that I'll share later in a deck that I built for this episode. So yeah, this is super fun. I think we're kind of all in agreement here. This is pretty fun, and I'm anticipating we are going to be fully in agreement in the next section, which is our final thoughts on this card. So, ready for a fight? Final thought. I'm going to give you the last word here, AbisMol, because you're the guest. To let you go last, and I'll go first this time. For me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being true neutral, I think Ready for a Fight does a lot of things right for me. I think the art is solid. It's not spectacular for me. I don't love looking at it. Like, some of the art just really draws me in. I think this is solid. It fits the theme. It works for me. It's got some interesting characters and a sense of movement and motion and energy, which I like. I do think thematically it ties it all together, right? I love, like I mentioned earlier, the requirement for the fist, also using the fist, which, is about fighting. Dock half a point because we don't have flavor text. Boomguy loves flavor text, so I'm going to complain about that. Power and fun is right up there. All in all, I'm going to say this is a 9.5 out of 10. This card is really, really strong. I think this is easily a new protection staple, a modern classic of the game that if you don't own the Silk Pack, it's worth getting the Silk Pack, I think, just for this card alone, quite frankly. Like, this card is really, really good. It's going to be used in decks as long as this game exists. So 9.5. I'm just going to give it a little half point off because of the flavor text and the art, which I find good but not amazing. LT, where are you at on this card? Final thoughts.
Before we start, I do think there is a Justice card that is the opposite of this. I think it's a preparation, and I think no one plays it.
Is it invisibility gear?
I think invisibility gear or something like that. I think it exists. It might cost 2, but it does the Nick thing of when they would scheme, they attack you. So
yeah, but it doesn't flip you, I don't think, and that's
it doesn't flip you.
When an enemy would attack
that is
you,
an important distinction.
It skips instead. I was looking for a flip, but
yeah, that is true.
Invisibility gear is the card.
The flip is an important distinction. That is a huge draw of this card, the biggest draw, I would say.
Yes,
but like I said, true neutral is 5, not a failing score. Also, like I said, the art is good. It's not excellent, but I don't hate it. And I think it's one of those things where if the art was like I didn't like it, it would dock at a point, but it currently just is going to let it coast. The theme is great. This card's so fun. It's so strong. But it's not strong. It hits that, I think, perfect level of strength for a cooperative game, where this card is ridiculous, but it doesn't stop anyone else from doing their thing. It doesn't get in anyone else's way. It doesn't do the Nova thing where you're like playing solitaire and like hoarding all the schemes. It just lets you do your thing better and help the team, or defend someone else and help them. But it doesn't limit anyone else. It just is good. It's a net positive for any multiplayer game you're playing. I think this card's a 10 out of 10. The flavor points dock it a little bit, but it's just so good and so fun that it has to get a little bit of charity, because it just feels. It's been a while, I feel like, since we got a card that feels so perfect for Marvel Champions. A lot of cards in Marvel Champions, you could slap a Star Wars art and call it Star Wars Unlimited, or slap magic art on it and give it a mana cost, and it could be a magic card because it just does damage or whatever. This card is purely Marvel Champions, down to its thematic core of you're a superhero, you're going to fight the villain. Nobody wants to sit there being Teddy Altman or Peter Parker doing nothing. You want to rip the sweatshirt off, put the mask on, and go jump into Spider-Man. That's what we all want to do. That's what this card lets you do. And it's also not one of those thematic cards that just gets thrown to the side because it's not very good. It's a cool thematic card that you get the use out of. It's not just going to fall by the wayside. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's awesome, and it's great, and it helps every hero, and there's fun ways you can do it with Ant-Man and Angel, and it also lets you use it in hero form. It's just a slam dunk.
AbisMol, you have the last word. What's your final thoughts on Ready for a Fight?
All right. So I'm actually going to lead with my score right off the bat. So for me, it's a 10 out of 10 for sure. Right. I think that could have been guessed. And I actually really love it that, you guys include the flavor text as part of it. It makes me appreciate, looking for that flavor text whenever I watch an episode. But it's not a requirement for me, for sure, for my score. I care what the heck the thing does. So for me, this thing does exactly what I want it to do. It allows me to flip over. By the way, when we went to the fun thing, it is actually fun to just flip over. Like you, or you, and you brought up before with Hulkling, actually has a card that lets him flip over. It's pretty cool to be able to use that card to flip over to the other side, but it's also cool to have this card that lets anybody flip over from their alter ego side to their hero side, including some heroes that really benefit from it. You put it in a She-Hulk card, so not only do you get that way bigger hand size in the alter ego side, but you do that 2 damage as soon as you flip over. You can end the game that way, and I actually have. So I flipped over to the other side, boom, 2 damage, and the villain was done. So it's like those kind of things are a level of fun that I wasn't in my mind when you first asked about that. But those are things, that flipping over thing, and when LazyTitan brought that up and you brought that up too, that I was like, yeah, that is a big part of this card and why it's so fun is you flip over along with them, and they attack you. That flipping over is a big piece. So I'm going to just go ahead and end it there because I think I said enough earlier. But this is, again, a 10 out of 10.
I mean, right there. This is if this card was a podcast, I would give it 5 stars. I was just gonna say it right there.
And if this card was on a podcast, I would give that podcast 5 stars.
Thank you. By extension, right?
By extension, right? In the presence of greatness.
5 stars.
That only seems right.
First person to leave a 5-star review right now because of Ready for a Fight, I will read it on the air. Please mention Ready for a Fight in the comment. No, this card is great. We all agree. I'm a stickler for flavor text, so it lost a little bit there, but overall it's really good. Now, the last thing we have today is 2 decks. I have a deck that I built, and you have a deck that you built, AbisMol. And as always, I ask our guests if they would like to show off their deck first or show off their deck second. So I give you the choice. How would you like to go?
I think I'll do mine first.
All right, you go first. So let me pull your deck up, and I will share it. I like you just ready to charge in. My man is ready for a fight. He's just going to jump right in and show off his deck. So here it is. If you wouldn't mind just kind of reading the deck. If you want to read every card, you can, or if you just want to give highlights, up to you. But introduce us to your deck.
Okay. Well, I guess at least for the sake of those who are just listening, the real
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Then it makes sense that I should at least mention all the cards in the deck here. So for our allies, we've got 8 allies all together, and the ones added to the deck are Brother Voodoo, Iceman, Iron Fist, Machine Man, Mockingbird, Patriot, and Yellow Jacket. And I'm going to kind of stick with them for a little bit and just say that they are all chosen to go along with this theme. So the name of the deck is Stupefy. It's a 40-card protection deck. And the idea is to stupefy or stun the villain. And I realize that's kind of an old theme, is to, go for a stun lock. But the truth is, I actually had never built a true stun lock deck before. And so I was going for that. And I wanted 2 themes, and that was stunning and making tough statuses occur. And so if you look at those, and the last piece being taking advantage of the fact that, when you go over to alter ego side, because of course it's going to be running Ready for a Fight, that you get to use Hulkling's alter ego ability that lets him grab one of his shape upgrades that are 2 resources. And so that's why Machine Man is in here, is that Machine Man could possibly, you flip over to your alter ego side, grab one of those, and now Machine Man can attack because you can pay 2 resources and he can attack for 3, or if you get another resource, he can attack for 4. So that's why Machine Man's in here, but the rest of them are all in here because they do some kind of stunning or tough status thing. Okay? So it's meant to be very thematic with that. And also I want to mention, I meant to say this first, and this is still a good place for it anyway. So I wanted to, out of respect for LazyTitan, I actually tried, I was stuck with Hulkling the whole time. I tried 6 different times, changing decks up even whole different build to do decks that just had like one hero, and did fine against like standard. But when I went to expert, like it just couldn't compete. So at least I feel like I've hopefully paid my respects to the
Appreciate
Red
the
I
attempt.
love it.
It is a handicap that I place on myself, really for no reason. But it does change the way you have to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as a solo player, and I'm going to play against pretty tough villains and expert, then I just I was like, okay, I tried the best I could, and I'm like, but now I got to do what I got to do. So, and this game, because losing 6 times in a row, it's just that's not the most fun thing.
For sure.
Fair.
So once I made this change, then the deck started winning again against all the villains I faced. So, and I faced, as usual, I face 4 different villains in standard and expert is how I usually do that. So. And then for the events, we have Face the Past. So, and that's the only card draw card in this deck. I had some build restrictions that I wanted to ban all cards that confuse. So I was going to rely just on Ready for a Fight, and as well as any allies that draw cards. So that was my personal build restrictions as well. So then we had, like I said, Face the Past for the events, and then 3 copies of Hard Knocks and 3 copies of Tackle. And then again, going with that theme, the stunning and the being able to put tough statuses on. Player side scheme, superpower training, specifically meant to get alien physiology into play. That was its big thing to get that out there. And then only 2 resource cards, 2 double resources, the energy and strength, because I relied a lot on those his own upgrades for that. For those energy, for those resources, so that way I could play more of other cards. And then for the support, I had Hidden Base, which complements Ready for a Fight beautifully. I just love that card too. Yeah. So you flip over to get that Hidden Base. You get 3 times that you can get a tough status from it before you use it up. And a lot of games I actually really did use it up. So I really, that's just such a great complementary card to that. And I thought it really worked well in this, it goes again with the theme of this. Quinn Carrier for a resource generator to go along with his own alien physiology. And then for the upgrades, we've got 3 copies of Ready for a Fight, 3 copies of Stun Gun. And normally, and in fact, if I were to redo this deck, I would actually only run 2 copies of Stun Gun. It's just I just wanted to go all out on being able to do the stunning, and so I did all 3. But I would probably remove one of those and put in instead. What's that card that lets you decrease the cost of a superpower card?
Depth
Focus, yeah. So, and especially with being able to go to your alter ego side, so you have the Altman Residence that lets you shuffle cards back into your deck. So even though he only has, let's see, what are those cards? He has his 2 impersonation cards and his 3 shapeshifter strike cards and his alien physiology upgrade. Those are the only ones that are superpowers that can benefit from that. His defense cards can't benefit from it, and he's got a couple of 0-cost cards that can't benefit from Depth Focus. But because you can use the Altman Residence to shuffle his cards back into the deck, then I think Depth Focus would be a better choice than going with 3 stun guns. I just was sticking more thematically there, but I do think it would be personally that's a change that I would make if I were going for just being a better deck.
Yeah, I like the look of this. Stun Gun's not a card I run often or have run very much. I always love Hard Knocks. I have been running a lot of Hard Knocks and Tackle recently with Jubilee, running a bunch of Protection Jubilee builds. I think they're both really, really good for her. Hard Knocks is just good. Tackle is generally not, but I've found love for it in Jubilee. I've yet to play Hulkling, so I don't know. LazyTitan, I will defer to you on that one. How do you feel about this for a Hulkling build?
I like it. I respect the dedication to appeasing the Red King. I do like
you would
this.
Like that.
Curious as to why, if energy and strength are just picked because it's 2 of them, or if there's some reason you don't need as many mental resources.
So the strength was the automatic pick for me because of Ready for a Fight. Although the truth is you actually don't need it, because you can play, like, as soon as you get ready for a fight. This is something I wanted to mention about Hulkling, and specifically, as soon as you get ready for a fight, you can automatically go to alter ego, like you can, and just play it, because you can always use Hulkling's alter ego ability and grab one of his upgrades that has a physical resource, because he has 2 of them that has physical resources. His shape shifter cards, his shape cards, and so you can always grab it. So you don't necessarily need it to be strength, but that was my thought in choosing strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then for energy, was there another card that actually uses energy in here? I think it might have been like a flip of the coin type of thing on that.
Just wondering if there's any significance to that. I mean, I like the look of it. I played Hulkling once or twice. I did not like him, but I can see. It didn't click for me. But I definitely see how this uses his just insane economy to just. Hard Knocks is great. I love Hard Knocks. Tackle's not a card you see a lot, but definitely can be. You can afford it with Hulkling. He's just got so much money. I think it's cool. I think it's great. Hidden Base is also a sleeper hit for sure.
Yeah, Iron Fist. Good to see Iron Fist in there. He's one that of course that card you don't see a lot anymore. But no, this looks really good. I like this. I will have a link to this deck. It is not published yet, but once it's published, I'll have a link to it when this comes out. And then in the deck description, there's links to all the other stuff you do with this in terms of your gameplay videos and your deck rundown videos and all that kind of stuff. I'll have all that in there as well, so people can check that out. Okay, let me stop sharing, and then I will share my deck, which is probably way worse. But you know what? Here we are. One of the things I'm doing with this series is I'm challenging myself to build heroes that I don't play very often, and to, kind of break out of my shell. So Psylocke is a hero that I have struggled to really get along with and really enjoy and feel comfortable with. So I challenged myself to do this. So she has some natural synergies here that we'll discuss in a second. This is a protection deck, 42 cards, literally unplayable. So let me just run down the cards in here, and then we'll talk about it. It includes Jocasta, Northstar, and Professor X. I have 3 copies of Come Get Me Bub, 2 copies of Sigh, Flail Strike, and 3 copies of Psychic Misdirection. I have the 3 classic doubles, Energy, Genius, and Strength, and 3 copies of Power of the Mind, as well as 1 Change of Fortune, 1 Electrostatic Armor, 1 Scimitar, 3 Ready for a Fight, 3 Under Control, and 1 Unflappable. So this deck is not doing anything crazy unique. I really wanted to lean into Ready for a Fight, as that is the card of the day. So I picked one that has synergy. So she has specific synergy because she can generate a fist resource on demand with her Psy energy upgrades. It makes it easy to play Ready for a Fight. She also wants to go to Alter Ego often, and I was shuffling in a lot of my psionic cards. In particular, Psionic Misdirection, which is the clear MVP of this deck. It's a 2-cost defense psionic event that allows you to, it's a defense, and when an enemy attacks you, choose a different enemy, and the damage is dealt to that enemy instead of you. So
very good.
That card is crazy. And I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it where you can take an attack from the villain. Of course, you can direct it to a minion if you want, or you can use it to defend a minion. So if a minion attacks you, for example, that has Under Control on it, you can redirect all the damage somewhere else. You have successfully defended and taken no damage, so Under Control hits that thing for 4 damage. So you can direct its damage somewhere else, and then it dies automatically, which draws you a card from a Change of Fortune and Unflappable. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do. I don't think that's particularly new. Other people have probably covered that already. Jocasta allows you to recur Psychic Misdirection more often. Northstar, since you're defending a lot, allows you to kind of mitigate some of those boost icons to try to trigger Unflappable and things like that rely on you taking no damage. So, you're flipping down a lot to get the extra hand size. She has a smaller hand size already. She comes in with a 4 hand size in hero form. So again, she's got even more synergy with Ready for a Fight because she wants to go down. You get 2 extra cards. You can shuffle a psionic card back in. So often I was finding I would play Ready for a Fight, flip down and draw 6 cards, then immediately flip up, kill something, a minion, and draw 2 more cards. So I'm starting the hand with 8 or 9 cards in my hand right away for someone that has 2 resource generators on board to start the game. So had a ton of fun with this. Again, I don't know if it's super novel. I'm sure other people have done something similar to this, but this is kind of my challenge to myself to build this, and I had a ton of fun with it. It's called Sigh Lockdown, so if you want to check it out, I will have a link. It will be published the day of, and as always, I challenge everyone listening, the real ones and the new ones on YouTube, to build a deck using Ready for a Fight and share the deck, and I will include it in the community decks section of this write-up so that all the decks that people share that they made, anybody who finds this an episode and looks at my deck can check all the other ones out. There'll be links in there. I'm not trying to farm looks on my deck. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody has their deck seen as much as possible, and that's the best way I found out to make it happen. So, thoughts from either of you, or both of you, or none of you?
I like it. I think it's super cool. Change of Fortune feels like a natural pick in this. Under Control, I think, is interesting. I like Under Control a lot. I don't see it played enough, and I don't feel like it can. But great, obviously, combo with Change of Fortune. Having a huge hand size with any hero that has the super resource trainers like Penny or Psylocke, those characters have built-in extra money that just the punishment is having a low hand size where you can just break that is always super good. And also you can get the focus and Ready for Fight. I honestly forgot that her ability was to shuffle psionic cards back in the deck. I have not played Psylocke very much, and I have not flipped down with her very much. So maybe I need to try this so that I can remember what her ability does.
Yeah,
because I for real forgot that.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Just being able to kill things pretty consistently. Come Get Me Bubba's huge for protection as well, being able to pull minions out. So yeah, AbisMol, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just think this is a really cool deck. So I always am curious what you're going to come up with because it's always creative, and this one to me doesn't disappoint. So I think that's really cool. I had to look up. Can't always remember what cards do, so I had to look up Under Control real quickly and go and remind myself that okay, that's right. So you just defend and it does 4 damage to that minion. So that's pretty cool. So you must have been able to utilize Change of Fortune's ability pretty decently often then in this deck.
Basically every turn. The cool thing about Psychic Misdirection is because it's defense traded. All you have to do is play it, and you just redirect the damage somewhere else. It counts as you defending, which then triggers Under Control, because since you've redirected the damage, there's no way you can take damage. So Change of Fortune triggers if you kill it. Unflappable also triggers, so you just draw 3 cards by putting damage on something else, which is an incredible feeling. But yeah, Change of Fortune was just about every single turn.
Yeah, that combination just looks really cool. Psychic Misdirection isn't a card. Like a lot of these are quite a few cards in here. So Under Control and Psychic Misdirection and Psyflail Strike, all the cards that I haven't really utilized much at all. So I think it's really cool that this includes all of those in it. And it's nice to see one that I feel like really can utilize Change of Fortune well. And with bringing out minions, I sometimes feel like when you purposefully bring out minions instead of just letting them come out when they come out, that it doesn't pay off very well. That usually it's like, all I did was create some work for myself that kind of meant I just kind of delayed the game for a round. And this feels like it just would work. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, this is one of those decks, to be honest, where I wish Change of Fortune didn't exhaust, because there was rounds where I could have triggered Change of Fortune 2 or 3 times. You could just keep killing them. You have all the stuff going on. She also has a way to get Retaliate, of course. I think it's weapons training. So Retaliate, Electrostatic Armor, she's just fighting back anyway. So there was turns where I wish if I hadn't exhausted Change of Fortune, I could have done it again and again. You can just keep wiping the board. So it's a ton of fun. I encourage people to check it out, give it a shot. Let me know what you think. And again, submit the decks that you all can think of. I love how creative people are, and they share decks, all kinds of heroes that I wouldn't have thought of, and other card combinations I think are really cool. I'm hoping that I get people submitting and sharing so we can talk about it in Discord and online. Well, AbisMol, it was awesome to have you here. I appreciate you hanging in with us, hanging out with us, and talking cards. It was a great time.
Yeah, thanks. I had a great time. Yeah, thank you very much for contacting me. So
yeah, awesome. Can you tell people where they can find you and who you are just one more time to remind them?
Yeah. So once again, my channel is MC Deck Discussions, And so it's all about really discussing decks. And I'm always happy to, by the way, here and there, I get somebody who requests that I go ahead and play their deck and do a deck discussion on it. And I really have a lot of fun doing that too. So if anybody's just like, hey, I'm not a content creator, and even if you are, but I'm not a content creator, my deck never gets really shown. I'm happy to, try out your deck, see what it works well with, and then go ahead and show people that deck and do a deck discussion on it. So either way is great with me. So thanks again.
How do people get in touch with you if they want to send you a deck? Are you in Discord? Do you have email? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I am on Discord, and I think it's just, gosh, I don't even remember.
It is just AbisMol. It is AbisMal.
Like it's okay. All right. So, and then, but of course, if you just look up, like I've tested it out just to make sure it shows up, right? If you search for MC Deck Discussions on YouTube, then you can. I reply to every comment. So if you just comment on my on any of my videos at all, then you'll get a reply from me, and we'll be able to contact each other from there too. So
perfect.
That also works. Yeah.
Well, sounds good. Again, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out and talking cards. I will have links to your channel down below. I will not forget that in the description. And thanks for hanging out with us. And I look forward to doing it again sometime. Thanks for being here, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.